Okay, guys, here we go with my review of Ahsoka Episode 3. Full spoilers ahead, and I have to say, I like this one a lot more. I think the main reason I did was because I was expecting some of the things that were negatives for me last time. So, the wooden acting is the main thing that got to me, kind of the prequel speak, where people are talking very much like this in very deliberate sentences, instead of just having a very natural way of speaking. And, like in that one scene where the Twi'lek lady is saying, "You don't know that." She'd be like, "You don't know that." I just think it would be a lot better if they spoke a lot more naturally in that, because that's what made Star Wars Episode 4 very relatable when it was released back in 1977. But putting that aside, I really did enjoy this one a lot more. And there were some things that I think stuck out to me as pretty funny. So it's becoming pretty obvious in this series how much they're trying to emulate both the music and the visuals and the story, or kind of the scene style of the original Star Wars film, because there are moments where you can very clearly hear them trying to not necessarily copy, but very nearly copy some of John Williams' themes in here. I actually kind of wondered if John Williams did do this score, but I found out that he didn't do the score. But some of the scenes, too, there's a scene where they have Sabine is wearing the visor and she puts down the blast shield and she goes, "I can't see, how am I supposed to fight?" And they're training on a ship which is going through hyperspace. It's pretty much the same thing, but they changed the scene up a little bit there. And okay, I'm going to go into it a little bit more, but let me just say, the one thing in this episode that really made me like this, and I've never seen this in Star Wars before, and I don't know if they did it in any of the animated series or not, but Ahsoka putting on a spacesuit, going outside the ship, and blocking laser cannons. That is so silly that I just love it. It's so ridiculous. It's so out there. Those blast marks, if you've seen like Star Wars Episode 8, those blast marks are very big, probably way too big to be blocked by a saber. A saber is so tiny, and these are blast points that probably are very, very large, and yet she blocks them with a saber. It's so goofy with her flying around in space. I mean, if you didn't like the Mary Poppins thing before, and it's the kind of thing that I think people are probably going to say is a negative in the episode. I imagine it's probably a meme now. I can just imagine how the internet is going to react to this, but I love it. It's so goofy. But I absolutely love it. The other thing I liked was the training scene. I mentioned the blast shield thing. I loved that scene because it uses the lore concerned with the version of the Force that I like. So you have the midichlorian lineage type Force, where I know midichlorians don't technically control the Force, but it's a technicality. But you got the midichlorians' power levels, and then you use the Force if it's inherited and you're quote-unquote Force sensitive. I always hated that concept. Star Wars people behind the scenes, I love you guys, but I hate the concept of Force sensitivity. I'm sorry, because Yoda described the Force as an energy field, Obi-Wan talked about the Force as an energy field between all living things. Yoda talked about it in the same way. And when we got to the prequels, we started talking about people in your family having more Force power. And and I know that there was a little bit of that in it was mentioned, it was kind of hinted that it might be heritable in the original trilogy, but not nearly as much. It's much more of a thing that it's like anyone can learn to use this. And during that scene, the way Ahsoka talks about the Force, she basically says, hey, anyone can use the Force, but not everyone can master it, because talent plays a role, and so does mastery and how much you put into studying it. That's the version of the Force that I like. If there's going to be family lineage, I want it to be you pass down that talent to your kids, just in the same way that you can sort of pass down those genes to be a good sword fighter or a good musician. You can pass those on to your kids. I think in the same way you should be able to pass on some of those general talents that make you good with the Force, but you shouldn't be able to pass down Force sensitivity. I think, like I said, I hate the concept of Force sensitivity. I think it's dumb. I think it's antithetical to what the Force is supposed to be. Anyway, but again, not hating on any of the people who designed those ideas. I'm just saying I think the Force should work in that way. And so you had Ahsoka with Sabine, and they're sort of training, and it's a montage. It's not a montage. sorry, I was trying to say it's not a montage. It's just one long scene, and you can see her trying to teach her to use the Force, and she's not really getting it. But you can see how Ahsoka is a master of it. You can see how she knows how to use it. It doesn't seem like she's just reading lines. It seems like she's very focused on actually making this work. And when Sabine tries to control the cup, I like that it doesn't work. I like that Sabine doesn't actually succeed in making the cup move, because I was afraid that they were going to cut to that scene and she was just going to wiggle her hand a little bit and the cup was going to move. And it's like, no, I got it. No. And another thing I like in this episode, I love Hu Yang. He's grown on me. I never really watched the Clone Wars. I've seen a couple scenes that have him in it, just very briefly, maybe like 30 seconds I saw with Hu Yang in it before. But I like him here. I like the way that he trains Jedi. I like the steps that they're going through. And I like that he's a droid that's programmed with what works, and he's not really a Force user, but he knows how to train up younglings and make them become Jedi with those practices. So that's a good balance between that team there. The acting is taking a little bit of a toll on it. Even though I said I still liked it, the acting is taking a little bit of a toll on it because some of those scenes, I think, aren't sold as well as they should be. There was a scene with Mon Mothma in it. I really like that Mon Mothma's back in this. But it just seemed like in that scene, it just should have worked a little bit better with that dialogue, and it was the very stilted acting. Now, Ahsoka does that a little bit more, but that actress, I think, the way she does the performance, she actually seems like she has a mastery of things in that performance. So when she looks at things and it's worrying her, you can tell in her face that she's worried, but she's still very stoic because she's learned to stay calm. That suits her personality. Her lines are a little bit reserved, but again, that fits her character very well, so I don't mind that at all. I think Ahsoka is very likable in the series too. That's kind of the one thing that's a strong point for me that's keeping me into this, is that Ahsoka is very likable. She's a person, a Jedi, who can approach situations, and you can see her wisdom, and you can see her practicality, and you can also see that she cares about people, and that's good for a protagonist to have that, because we've had a few protagonists in Star Wars that didn't have those qualities, that didn't have that likability where we want to root for that character. So I'm glad that Ahsoka has that going for her. And I like the chase scene in space. I like that star whales are a thing in Star Wars, because I don't know if you guys have seen Doctor Who, but Doctor Who has star whales, and that's exactly what I thought of. I was like, oh, that's kind of like the star whale in Doctor Who, and then they just called it a star whale, and I was like, okay, that's kind of weird, but all right. I'm not sure which show did it first, to be fair, but and yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I just wish the acting was a little bit better. Also, that last shot of the dude who was helping hunt them down on the planet. I know there's, I forget the two bad guys' names, and then there's the older gentleman too. But whoever they are, we get a little shot of them in this, and that's pretty cool. And I have to say this because I didn't mention it a couple episodes ago, but it's like stabbing people in the Star Wars universe, it just has no meaning anymore. Anyone can be brought back with the back to tank. Like, the back to fluid is just kind of magic at this point. But anyway, so I enjoyed that. I think I really am starting to like Ahsoka's fighting style. And I look forward to what they're going to do next time. Sorry this is so brief, but I got to go soon, guys. But I'll talk to you later. Please leave a comment below and like this if you liked it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.